Howdy folks. In this lesson I'm going to show you how to play a turnaround lick in the key of D. In bluegrass, turnarounds are most often used as little mini solos or instrumental fills in between the verses of songs, especially in gospel quartets. Many of the old bluegrass gospel quartets used nothing but a guitar and a mandolin for rhythm, and the mandolin would play a different little two-chord turnaround between every verse. To hear some of these, listen to any of the old Bill Monroe or Flatt and Scruggs gospel tunes. Another good, more modern example is the album Skaggs and Rice. It's full of great mandolin turnarounds played by Ricky Skaggs. Okay, enough about turnarounds for now. Let's learn how to play one. All right, that's our little turnaround lick here in the key of D. And this thing, if you're looking at the chords in the notation, you'll see it goes from a D chord to an A chord and back to the D. And in terms of numbers, if you refer to those chords as numbers, that's the 1 chord, the D is the 1, and the A is the 5 chord. And you can take a look at some of my other lessons if you need a little more explanation of that, but most of these turnarounds are going to go from the 1 to the 5 and back to the 1. Doesn't mean all turnarounds have to do that. In jazz you'll see 2-5-1 turnarounds and 6-3-2-5-1 turnarounds and all kind of other stuff. You could even play 4-5-1, but this one, they serve the same function in that they bring you back to the chord number 1. It brings you back to your home key. So this one does it very simply by starting on the 1, leaving it, going over to the 5, and coming back to the 1. And that's fairly common for turnarounds. Now let's look at how to play this thing. In the first measure, if you look down below the tablature line, you'll see I've got down arrows and up arrows indicating your pick directions. And the first 3 notes are all down strokes. And we're doing a little double D note. We're going to play the 7th fret of the 4th string and the open D string. So both those are the same note, they're a unison. 2 Ds together. We're just doing that so that we get a more powerful note by hitting both those together. And you'll also see that I've got a little slanted line going up to the 7th fret of that very first note, and that just means we're going to slip up into that note with a little slide, like that. And it's not too important how far you go with that. You could slide from way down here. 1 fret, 2 fret, 3 fret, whatever you want to do is fine. Normally, the distance of that slide is determined by the note you just played. If you were on the 4th, you'll probably slide from the 4th, and you'll see that in the last measure. But anyway, enough of that. The first 3 notes are just quarter notes, and they're downstrokes. So we slide into the first one, and then we hit it 2 more times. Then we do a down up, a little pair of 8s, like that. Now, as you get into the second measure, we have an 8th note followed by a quarter note, then another 8th note followed by another quarter note. And really take a look at those pick directions. It's going to be down, up, down for those notes. Down, up, down. And that's to maintain our steady down, up feeling in our hand. Throughout that measure, our hand's going to continue to go down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. It's just we're only going to hit the strings at the time of the notes. So if you get a little confused with that, definitely look at those arrows and make sure you're playing them with the correct directions. And here's what it sounds like. We're also going to drop in an additional note, our open D string that was here. I'm going to bring my first finger down and play the 4th fret. And incidentally, when we start this thing, we're playing 2 D notes, and those are obviously D chord notes, because obviously a D is in the D chord. In the second measure, we bring in this note, the 4th fret. That's the 3rd of the D chord, so now we have a nice little 3rd harmony going on here, which is 2 notes of the D chord. Let's play the first 2 measures. That's all it is. You want to try to keep your wrist nice and loose. And incidentally, you may notice that sometimes when I'm really loose, I'm also hitting this A string up here, and you could call it a triple stop. That's not shown in the notation, but if you hit that note, that's okay, because that A string here on the second string is part of the D chord, so if you get a little wide and hit it, don't worry about it. Now when you get to the A chord, third measure, here's where you need to kind of, I don't want to use the word tighten up, but you need to economize your motion a little bit and just play single notes. Like that. We're playing the open second, upstroke on second fret, downstroke open, upstroke on the fourth fret. In other words, it's all down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up through those 8 notes. And the contrast between these double stops and that little clean single note is really nice. And then when you get to the last measure, you'll see that we're going to hit the 4th fret and make a slide to the 7th. Let me play the next to last measure. And you come right to that note and slide your second finger all the way up to the 7th. That's the last measure. And again, if you hit that second string, that's okay. Here's the last 2. For practice, let's play the lick together with a recorded rhythm track. 1, 2, 1 and 2 and. You know, you can easily play this in the key of A simply by moving everything up 1 string higher. Let me show you how that's done. Now you can see there, I played exactly the same movements as we did in the key of D version. All I've done is taken every note and moved it 1 string closer to the floor, or 1 string higher. So instead of sliding here, I'm sliding up here on the 3rd string. And that turns the chords into a 1, 5, 1 chord progression for the key of A, which is the A chord, the E chord, back to A. So just take that little lick and move it up 1 string and you'll have it in the key of A. Turnaround licks are very handy as introductions to songs, as instrumental fills between verses, and as a way of learning to play lead in small, easy-to-master phrases. Be sure to check out my 2 premium downloads called Turnarounds and More Turnarounds to learn 10 more of these phrases in 5 different keys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next lesson.